Okay, welcome everyone to the afternoon session. I hope I will not put you asleep after lunch. So my name is Pavel Kuchar. I am originally from Czech Republic. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Guanajuato. So I also belong to the Mexican expedition here to Argentina. I would like to appreciate first the invitation to Federico. And include, I'm very honored to be included into the group of marvelous scholars and being able to assist some of the presentations that are also related to what I would like to talk about, which is part of my broader research project on entrepreneurship and institutional change. The basic question: how technological change ties into changes in institutions. What I'm going to present today is a paper that is now under review in the Journal of Evolutionary Economics. Hopefully it might be out sometimes next year. And I believe that my work deserves your attention because it is an attempt to link together entrepreneurship research and institutional economics research on institutions and institutional change. I have the feeling that the scholars belonging to these two schools, to these two categories, do not often communicate very well together. The institutionalists are not very well aware of entrepreneurship. Lower? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Slower. Because I have the feeling that the entrepreneurship research is not very well aware of the work that is done in the field of institutional economics, property rights economics, talking about people like Harold Demsetz, Gary Leibke, and on the other hand side, the property rights scholars, new institutional economic scholars, do not very well communicate with entrepreneurship research. So I feel that there might be a gap that I would like to fill with my work, and I'm applying this research to a particular case of surrogate motherhood, where technological change enables changes in legal and institutional structures in contract enforcement. But today I'm going to only treat a theoretical part of my research, which is basically the part from entrepreneurs towards changes in institutions throughout influencing changes in shared beliefs. And what you've seen before is my main thesis that I would like to present to you today, and to try to argue it out, that entrepreneurs are in fact agents of institutional change, because they rally consensus that leads by means of political processes to changes in the rules of the game, to changes in institutions. And I think that this actually presents or ties into a category of entrepreneurship which is understudied, underdeveloped, and which I would like to develop or highlight with my work. So first, trying to talk about this thesis, we should make clear what do we mean by entrepreneurship and what do we mean by institutions, what do we mean by institutional change. Just very briefly, we know that the concept of entrepreneurship leads back to scholars and people like Richard Cantillon, who makes a difference between the employed and the employer, saying that the employer actually bears the risk of the market. His income is not certain, and that's the difference between the employer and the employed, because the employed person actually receives a fixed wage. Then through the work of people like Jean-Baptiste Say or John Stuart Mill, who highlights the idea that entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial profits are related to the risk-bearing activities of entrepreneurs, we get to work of more contemporary theorists such as Frank Knight, who through his work on radical uncertainty develops or highlights one of the types of entrepreneurship that we study today, and of course work of scholars such as Joseph Schumpeter or Israel Kirzner, who try to look into the way how entrepreneurship relates to economic equilibrium. We know that for Schumpeter, the entrepreneur is a disturbing force, breaks the equilibrium, moves the equilibrium towards higher production possibility frontier. On the other hand, for Kirchner, the entrepreneurship is a coordinating force who pushes the economics into equilibrium, picking up the $20 bills that no one really noticed. So today the discussion, it might seem that today the discussion of entrepreneurship actually revolves around the concept of entrepreneurial opportunity through work of people like Scott Shane, who try to argue that entrepreneurship is an activity that involves the discovery, evaluation, and exploitation of opportunities to introduce new goods and services. It might seem that today entrepreneurship research is actually centered around the concept of opportunity, where it is, how to find it, what do entrepreneurs do with it. It might sometimes seem that opportunity is something like a suitcase, which is lost in the corner of the room and it just waits to be discovered by someone. So there is also a disagreement whether the concept of opportunity actually objectively exists, or whether it needs to be created, whether it needs to be discovered, or whether it needs to be created. On the other hand, Kirchner probably didn't really think that opportunity is something that should be the most important thing in entrepreneurship research. For Kirchner, arguably, entrepreneurship is, or the concept of what entrepreneurs do with opportunity is kind of a black box. And so, for example, Peter Klein, with his colleagues, would argue that the opportunity may or may not be realized, but this cannot be known in advance. Entrepreneurs actually invest resources and try to guess what the preferences will be of what the preferences of our consumers will be in the future, and whether the opportunity is actually realized or not is always an uncertain question, cannot be known in advance, and so there's no really conceptual benefit of using the concept of opportunity. So today the discussion of entrepreneurship is, I think, centered in these terms, and the question is, what does the entrepreneurship research today what does it have to do with institutional economics, changes in institutions? And so that's something that I would like to look into. And therefore, we need to talk about what are institutions and how do they change. We know that there is work of people such as Douglas North, defining institutions such as rules of the game. I think it's useful to think about institutions as coercively enforced rules. On the other hand, they are conceptually distinct from something like shared beliefs, which might be related to the concept of informal rules that North talks about, and these two concepts are linked together with through legitimacy. The formal rules are somewhat bound by the informal rules on the costs of becoming illegitimate, or if they are too distant, the formal rules. Then the problem of illegitimacy of institutions might appear, and there are different theories how institutions actually change. What is the source of institutional change? I'm going to highlight just two of them. You have the new institutional property rights kind of school, which would suggest that institutional change follows some kind of an efficiency path, when the marginal benefits of some institutional system actually drops, and then you have another institutional system whose marginal benefits are greater than its marginal costs. Then the institutions are arguably through a system of contracting changed in following this kind of efficiency path. Harold Demsetz might say or argue that the emergence of new property rights takes place in response to the desires of the interacting persons for adjustment to new benefit cost possibilities. On the other way around, on the other hand, you have old institutionalist or evolutionary economist who would say, well, the concept of efficient institutional change is really more difficult. Geoffrey Hodgson would, for example, argue that the account of institutional change is not purely functional. It's not that we always have more efficient institutions. They do not follow this cost-benefit analysis as the new institutionalists would argue, because the institutions create foundation for their existence upon many individual minds through habituation, through conventions that they actually create. They affect preferences, and so if we want to change the institutional rules, the institutional structure, evolutionary economists or the old institutionalists or people like Hodgson, who follow the scholarship of Thorsten Veblen, for example, would argue that we need to do something about the beliefs, something about conventions, something about the internalized habits of thought. And so here I think an opportunity, so to speak, entrepreneurially opens for research that would answer the question, when is actually entrepreneurship conducive to institutional change? And this is something that my argument, where my argument lies in. And I think for that we need to look into the work of Joseph Schumpeter. We know that the definition of entrepreneurship that he provides is well known. Entrepreneurs provide new combinations of goods, of processes. They put them together. In the theory of economic development, Schumpeter would say that the really difficult thing for the entrepreneur is to translate these new concepts, these new combinations into reality. But this is the concept of innovation that is very well known. But if we look into the earlier version of Schumpeter's theory of economic development, as Richard Swedberg did, we will find out that in the earlier definition of entrepreneurship, Schumpeter says that the entrepreneur can only be successful if he can get other people to assist in carrying out these new combinations. This is a kind of a sociological aspect of entrepreneurship that Schumpeter later on dropped, becoming a Harvard professor. This comes from the 1911 theory of economic development, which was written in German. The earlier 30s version didn't have this definition of entrepreneurship. It was a simple one. The later definition of entrepreneurship is only the new combinations entrepreneurship. But I think that what does it mean, getting other people to assist in carrying out the new combinations? I think this problem defining the entrepreneur can be demonstrated by an example that Schumpeter actually presents. He's talking about Victorian Britain in the Victorian era, saying that in Victorian era soap was introduced, but it was not enough to introduce good, satisfactory soap. It was also important to induce people to wash with it, to actually persuade them to use it. So how is that different from marketing? Well, not very much. You actually need to persuade your customers that they want the new innovation, and this is very well thought out, this is very well researched. And I would argue that what is even more important in that definition of entrepreneurship that Schumpeter provides is not really convincing your customers that they need what you produce, but convince everyone else that the production and interactions, monetary interactions in exchanging the new artifact are really proper and permissible. So that if you actually present an innovation and that innovation is so novel that it's not yet culturally categorized, you don't know whether transacting with the new innovation, with the new artifact is proper and permissible within the market system. I think that in that case, the entrepreneurship and its role through persuasion and convincing the whole society, everyone around, to take part in tolerating this new artifact and exchanges in these new artifacts, that's something that actually defines innovation and the process of innovation through which entrepreneurs contribute to changes in institutional rules because they they shape the boundaries of shared beliefs within which the formal rules can legitimately emerge. So this is, I think, the institutional aspect of entrepreneurship that we might identify. We have several functions, several entrepreneurial functions that we know that we talked about. The Kirchnerian one is very close to entrepreneurship, that acts as a middleman, buying low, selling high. These entrepreneurs act in a world which is determined or characteristic with low uncertainty. You do not really have to. You don't really have to innovate. You do not really have to persuade anyone that they want the new goods. You simply participate in arbitrage. The other entrepreneurial function that we know is the innovating entrepreneur, bringing together new combinations, as I talked about it. And I think that there is a feature of this innovating entrepreneurship that is understudied, and that is the persuasion part. I think it ties nicely into the work done by Deidre McCloskey. The entrepreneur often, and I think this is something that really also is very relevant with regards to the talk that Jose Luis Esper had last night, that the role of entrepreneurs in the setting where markets are not legitimate is not just to present new solutions to better satisfy the needs of their customers, but also to legitimize honest profits, to legitimize monetary exchanges, because otherwise, if the exchanges in certain artifacts are not legitimate, these new artifacts are not innovation, they're useless. If you're not permitted to use them, to consume them, to exchange them, then there is no innovation, in fact. So this is one of the consequences of my argument. Now, it is related to some extent with something that might be called cognitive entrepreneurship. The entrepreneurs shape mindsets of people around, and not just their consumers, but everyone else in a society who are supposed to tolerate exchanges, introductions, carrying out the new innovations. So as Roger Koppel said recently, I cannot really sell you an apple for $1 unless our ideas of apple, dollar, and trade are more or less the same. And I would add, unless we all agree that trading apples for dollars is a good, permissible, and proper thing. With apples, this is simple. But my work on surrogate motherhood, where women actually rent out their wombs to carry out children for someone else, this concept of entrepreneurship becomes very relevant. Because without the effort of entrepreneurs to legitimize and to ask for enforcement of these contracts, surrogate motherhood would never take place, although the technological possibilities are there. Now, the question is how this entrepreneurship actually relates to something we might call social, political, or institutional entrepreneurship, and how is it different from rent-seeking? Because the entrepreneur that I'm talking about is interested in providing new solutions to his customers, and also when he wants to do that, he very often needs to change the rules or contribute to the change of the institutional rules of a society that he lives in. When we define social, political, institutional entrepreneurship, that's how we define them. We say social, political, institutional entrepreneurs make effort to change institutions and institutional rules when they benefit from it, when it pays for them to do so. So there's an overlap between the innovating and the institutional entrepreneurs. But also, when we define rent-seeking, we can see that very often the social, political, and institutional entrepreneurs are actually rent seekers because they do not care about innovations, they do not care about their customers that much. So my argument would be, and that's a conjecture, I would like someone to disagree with me and tell me why not, is that when we introduce this category of entrepreneur that I was talking about, we can actually drop these adjectives because they are anyway really impossible to disentangle when is entrepreneurship not social? When is it not political? When is it not institutional? So we can only maintain entrepreneurship and make a real distinction between entrepreneurs and rent seekers. And then the need for a special category of social, political, institutional entrepreneurs actually disappears, as I would argue. So to conclude, to repeat what my argument was, what I was saying, because entrepreneurs persuade others to participate in carrying out the new innovations, the new combinations, transforming inventions into useful innovations, entrepreneurs are in fact agents of institutional change. This leads to the second point, that this claim is particularly pertinent in cases when the cultural categories are not established, when the permissibility of using the new technology is uncertain. And I would also say in situations when the compatibility of artifacts or of goods or of commodities is uncertain with regards to whether they're compatible and legitimately compatible with the market process. In that case, entrepreneurs actually have the need, I would say even the obligation, not only to try to sell, but also to persuade everyone that honest profits are good things and that what they do should be proper and permissible, and to invest resources into legitimizing these. And third, once we take into account these differences between entrepreneurship and rent-seeking, I would say that the analytical need for a special category of institutional, political, or social entrepreneur would disappear. How are we doing on time?
You're almost there. If you want to leave some...
Okay, so I can speak more about the particular application of this concept of this model that I have coming from the entrepreneur to changes in institutions, because very often we wonder how institutional framework influences entrepreneurship. I have it the other way around. I want to know how entrepreneurship influences the institutional framework. And then I want to know also how it's, but I have a kind of a dynamic account of this process and I apply it on the technological change that enables surrogate motherhood, that enables a mother to become mother through a contractual process. And that happened within 20 years from the introduction of in vitro fertilization in 1978. And that happened, as I would argue, through the effort of institutional entrepreneurs. But that's a different presentation, so you can talk with me about it. I can send you my papers if you're interested in that. For now, I thank you very much for your attention, and I would be happy to hear some criticisms, questions, and comments.